smallest hill in the whole area.
Das ist eigentlich der kleinste Berg in der ganzen Umgebung.
You see a topographical picture of Jerusalem? This is the smallest hill. It's surrounded by hills.
Und wenn ihr jetzt diese Zeichnung anschaut, das ist der kleinste Berg, der umgeben ist von großen Bergen.
Oh, sorry. The smallest one down here. Maybe next time. Over here is the Mount of Corruption.
Und hier ist der Berg der Verderbens.
Sorry?
Verderbens. Also in Deutschland ein Berg des Verderbens.
When the kings of Judah went astray, they worshipped all their false gods on this hill here.
Und als die Juden abtrünnig wurden, haben sie die falschen Götter Richtung diesen Berges angebetet.
They still worship Yahweh, but they just took him up there.
Und sie beten immer noch Yahweh an und sie schauen darüber.
See, in those days, the most important god had the highest hill.
Und damals war es so, der wichtigste Gott hatte den höchsten Berg.
And they couldn't understand how the God of Israel chose the lowest hill.
Und die konnten überhaupt nicht verstehen, dass der Gott Israels auf diesem kleinen Berg hier ist.
So the Bible says, don't be conformed to the world.
Aber die Bibel sagt ja immer, wir sollen nicht der Welt gleich sein.
So the kings of Judah will say, you know, the God of Moloch, the God of Moab is up there, and the God of Sidon is up there. What is Yahweh doing down here?
Und die Juden und die Leute haben gesagt, Yahweh ist hier, wenn die großen Götter alle da drüben sind, was soll das?
So they thought they were doing Yahweh a favor, taking him up there.
Und dann dachten sie, wir müssen Yahweh auch irgendwie da hochbringen, das tun die Welt gefallen.
You know,
I have a better idea, because otherwise,
he went to Givon, which is the highest hill in the area. And when he got wisdom, he never went back there. You know, there's nowhere in the Bible where it says, let's go up to Zion. It's the wrong translation. My field of expertise is biblical Hebrew. I have the best biblical Hebrew teachers in the world. We go down to Zion. And it's like Isaiah 57:15. God is lives in a high and lofty place, but he dwells with the humble and contrite spirit. And he resists the proud, and he gives grace to the humble. And even if we're Christians and we're proud, he resists us. So Zion is the place where we meet God, not up there. And when the kings of Israel, Judah, went astray, they always went up there. And when they had a revival and a reformation, they brought Yahweh back down here. And they got rid of all those other gods. And sometimes we can, as Christians, look for God in the high places, at conference, an anointed speaker. But the true place to find God is when you're bearing the cross and you're walking in humility and in brokenness. So every king of Judah was judged whether he walked in the ways of David or whether he removed the high places. And David was a model, and so Jesus is a model for us. He bore the cross. He said, "You bear the cross." And he lowered the floor. When he lowered the floor, he discovered this tunnel here. So Hezekiah is 703 BC, David is 1000. So Hezekiah was the first one to find this shaft here. So that's how we know that Job could have gone up that shaft, because no one knew about it. It's called the Gihon. And it sort of surges. There's about a minute and 20 seconds, and then there'll be another burst. So Gichon means to push. To push. And then it goes to the Shiloach. Shiloach means sent. So it's sent from the Gichon. So Gichon also is one of the rivers in Genesis, chapter 2. So some people consider the Garden of Eden to be here because of that. So any other questions?
Is there water now?
Yeah, there is, yeah. But we're not going to go through the waterway. We're going to go through the dry way today. Well, if we want to punish anyone, we'll send you through the water. To system. At the same time, Charles Wilson was sent to measure Jerusalem. 1869. He was the first person in history to measure Jerusalem. And in Zechariah chapter 2, you have the fulfillment of that prophecy. I'll read it to you. Remember, Jerusalem had never, ever been measured until 1869. And it says, then I looked up and there was before me a man with a measuring line in his hand. I asked him, where are you going? And he said, to measure Jerusalem and find out how wide and how long it is. And the angel who was speaking to me said, and another angel came out to meet him and said, run and tell that young man, Jerusalem shall be inhabited without walls because of the number. At the same time, they were going outside the walls. It's not a coincidence. In 1869, they were just going outside the walls of Jerusalem. And they were scared to. You had to lock the gate every night. And God was encouraging them. He says, don't fear, you multiply out there. We're 600,000 outside the walls now. For thousands of years, Jerusalem had only been within the city of walls. And there's two men here, they're measuring Jerusalem. One is Charles Wilson, and the other one is Stephen Ills. It says, run and tell that young man. And he made a model of Jerusalem out of zinc, according to the measurements of Charles Warren, and that very model you can still see in the Tower of David as a testimony to the fulfillment of that prophecy. Zechariah goes in chronological order. That was the beginning of the restoration of Israel. He said, yet again will I remember Jerusalem after thousands of years, and I will be jealous over Jerusalem.